In this total jungle carry guide, I'm going to show you step by step how you can dominate any game stage you might find yourself in. Essentially, what happens when you apply all of the jungling principles we talk about, and even with a few mistakes here and there, you will always find the opportunity to get yourself juiced. It showcases truly how 1v9 jungle can be when you just get into the zone. What if you have a gold deficit, your teammates are inting, you have to carry their corpses, you need to steal barons, dragons, whatever it might be, split push, take turrets yourself. Essentially one of those games where it is an absolute performance of pure jungle beauty and dominance, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it as well. And as always, please consider having a look at my jungle courses on my website, as well as joining us in the private jungle Discord to have access not only to the free jungle improvement PDF, but also weekly coaching classes, lectures, Q&As, and so much more, in addition to all of the jungle video courses included with it. The absolute jungle paradise for all junglers is Virkayu.gg. So if you pay attention to the channel as we go through these clears pretty quickly, you will note that the red side quadrant clear is kind of the meta in that it's mostly done by everybody. However, a lot of junglers, especially in anything below master tier, still like to full clear blindly. So what you can do is position yourself in a way to counter them. I've covered that fully as well, but I'll leave a few highlights on your screen now. You can see the diversity of options we have with this clear, but the clear you're seeing the Kayn do now is the one that you don't see that often. I've done my Raptors, my Red, my Krugs. I've looked bottom lane, hey, it's not gankable. I know the enemy jungler started topside is going down, but I can do nothing about that. Therefore, I'm going to go back to base very quickly, verse looping from Krugs to the Wolves, because I can get there really fast as Kayn, as whatever jungler I'm playing, Nunu as well, Hecarim, Shyvana, and so on. But the point more so is, hey, I've got a bit of an item advantage. I can keep my good sequencing for the respawn of the camps, right? The Wolves into the Grump, so that when they respawn again, when I eventually come back, they're nicely tied together, into my blue, into the scuttle. What does that mean that Zach has been doing this whole time? If he showed bottom lane at all, I'll know exactly where he is and what he's doing. If he doesn't show, he's probably done a full clear plus scuttle. This means that we can 2v2 in the mid lane as we expect him to gank. So we have the absolute same result, except we meet him there with a long sword advantage. Kinda good. And now because we showed up here in this environment, the bottom lane are gonna think, haha, Kayn's done a full clear up. There we go, and they're not gonna pay attention to the fact that he's already based. So he's going to take his base form and say, look, I understand the vision control bottom lane. I've seen it, I've observed it. Yeah, my Raptors are respawning followed by my Krugs. Why don't I just go ahead and circumvent that vision by queuing over the Dragon Pit wall and then Eing around, having a beautiful angle of approach such that we get a guaranteed kill. Don't chase his support, kill the ADC, thumbs up. So what our challenger Kayn did here that was so beautiful was, not only did he look for a ganking route ahead of his enemy jungler, let me do something that gets me ahead of what they want to do. If I take that away, that's wonderful. If I cannot, I'm still primed to match them in the mid lane. Then because he's going to be going back to base, I now have tempo control to gank bottom lane before he arrives again. Let me do that considering they're overcommitting and disrespecting me. And hey, guess what? You can rule break on whatever champion you want. You've seen the Kayn do it. Hecarim could have just ran down the river. Nunu could have just snowballed down the river. Most junglers could get around vision there in some capacity or just go through it fast enough that you could still end up getting a kill on the Ezreal. That's the point. But now you look at it and you're like, well, hey, I can just do a full sequence, right? Krugs have just spawned, Raptors, Wolves, Grump have all respawned. Wow. So not only have we had a good dynamic early game in terms of trying to control the jungle tempo, we've impacted lanes twice, we've secured all our camps twice, we got a Scuttle Crab. The Zac makes a pretty smooth play of just saying, hey, I can't match this. 44 CS is a first rotation of Scuttle plus a second rotation of clears. Let me go ahead and, just do the dragon. I saw Kayn go through mid lane, I saw him gank bottom lane, I know he's gonna take all his camps and go to the top side, I can snag this objective easily. Kayn can now say, hey, I see that, I understand that, you can take the green dragon, my green friend, I'm going to take the Scuttle Crab, get 6, and then repeat gank mid lane. Now what you must focus on here from the Kayn's ganking procedures is the pathing is immaculate. The pathing is great, we circumvent possible vision, we use our rule breaking appropriately, but any jungler of any class can gank like this and can farm like this, maybe not with the speed, but there is a reason previous editions of this video included things like Volibear, Warwick, Sejuani, because I wanted to showcase to you, hey, look, this is how you do it on champions that inherently don't have that natural power. But in this video, we're saying, hey, look at what happens when you do the same thing with a Kayn. So whatever meta champion you have, you can do this stuff. Just focus on what's going on, what fundamentals are being applied. For example, hey, I hit 6, I should probably use that ultimate. Comes to mind maybe a Karthus, a Fiddle, a Hecarim again. What a really good, smooth early game. I love the game planning, I like the ganking pathing, I like the fusion of farming, orb gathering, and obviously getting ourselves some decent CS. And I love the fact that even though someone was taking an objective, we didn't overcorrect for it like a lot of lower elo players would do. We also set up our sequencing perfectly and use the downtime between taking the Krugs and finishing off with the Grump with great action. Now, obviously when you see a lane that can be held, or maybe top lane is actually gankable here, you could do that. but we decide to hold the lane to get the free minions. We fall back to our blue and grump because obviously that's what we want to do. We see the enemy jungler track them that they're going to go for this herald. Now don't act like this Mundo here, don't act like this high elo Lilia here. Instead, what you want to do, and those are taken from other content across my ecosystem, instead if you want to contest this, which, I don't necessarily think you should all the time, definitely great to go ahead and try, but at the same time, what makes this unique to Kayn is, we want some orbs and we want some form. So even if it doesn't go very well, we're going to come out of this getting the form we want, we'll be happy, we'll get blue, we can go ahead and smurf it up. But if we steal it and get all those things, that sounds good, doesn't it? So you are trusting your team to rotate it a little bit. Make sure you play off of the give and take. Can you actually go in and steal? Can you actually fight? Is anyone actually paying attention to you? And if not, fall back, finish any camps that you may have on the map, and then of course, go back to base. As always, we will have 1 or 2 deaths in these scenarios. Whether they're good or bad is up to you and your decision making, but in this case, I would prefer not to die. You lose a blue, you lose a grump, you lose a herald. It can be a catastrophic ending to your early game. Now, once more, part of the 1v9 is recognizing when you see the game in the balance. Hey, mid lane is fed, top lane is fed, bot lane is kind of neutral. I'm strong, but I'm not really feeling control in this game. Don't go force an action right now. Do another full clear, control your stuff, get some counter jungling done, hold a wave, and then you can look for a really strong, meaningful gank with your ultimate up, really looking to use everything to snowball the game in your direction, get a shutdown, and so on. This pattern recognition here is very important because it's not unique to Kayn. I know a lot of Elises might feel a little bit panicked right now, but you could full clear very quickly and then go for a really good dive. You could still go ahead and repeat gank another situation. Even if your laners seemingly are doing well, you never truly know the gold graph until you look in the post game. So trust your gut a little bit with how it feels looking at how people are performing. And in the end, the whole point of this video is what? Holding waves, ganking and farming fusion, getting your orb fast, impacting lanes, getting yourself fed, counter jungling, objective control, mid to late game control. It's all about you. You have to be the selfish mushroom that's going to take over the fungal field. And even if the Zac or the enemy jungler is getting a few things here and there, that doesn't really matter, play your game. We can also presume that the Zac is going to want to use his power on the plays with the Herald with the winning Ezreal Soraka lane. So in this particular case, if we can get a gank off before he arrives because he shows mid lane, great. If we can get kills and then, push the wave and then maybe do a dragon, great. But the most important thing here as we tie up our early game is to ensure we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because in this particular case, you could have a cataclysmically bad play. Give them the plates, give them the turrets, give them your Krugs, the dragon, and now you're looking at a pretty uphill battle. No, instead, you can poke and prod and scan and float and see if something is possible. If there isn't, you can fall back, you can take and shadow. Take your Krug, shadow the situation. Try and stop the Herald if you can. And now to stop autopiloting your decision making at this particular mid-game transition phase, please don't just go and coin flip the Dragon Steel. Please also don't just totally ignore it if you can in fact contest it. Look at the state of itemization, look at the state of spending. Did bot lane go back to base? Did Zac go back to base? Or do you have all the power? If you have any sort of numbers advantage or potential to take over the situation, please do so. Go into the backline, take out the ADC, take out the Soraka, it doesn't really matter, just remove them from the equation. Even if you don't get the dragon, as we don't here, as long as you are making that correct play and that correct read, you still hold the power to be everywhere, to be the MVP, and to be the total carry jungler. If you give up something you don't have to give up, or you try and steal something you should give up, that'll be the equivalent of an economic crash for junglers. And of course, all of us of this generation understand that better than anybody. If real life is doing it to us, why make your jungling? So hopefully you've seen how fast and quick we can make this early game strong. The issue is taking this then and applying it to the mid game. This is where people get a little bit kind of caught up in themselves. They don't really have the impact that they should. They focus on the wrong things and their econ falls off a cliff. Here's how to keep your econ going strong. Firstly, as you've seen here, look for the pick, take your own camps, hold a wave, take the outside in roll by taking that scuttle crab before you take your camps. If you can counter jungle because they're dead or somewhere else, sneak in, sneak out, and fall back to your camps. Now you can reset, and obviously you want to focus on the next objective. You want to focus on where your team is. You see Ezra mid lane, you see Zac and Camille topside. Let's go for this fight. Why do I say that so easily? Well, because we're that damn strong. Look at the CS, look at the kills, look at the control we've had over this game. And honestly, that's why I like making this video once per year. You don't always get like a 20 kill bomb, 90% KP, high damage savant game where you are actually behind in gold. But when you do and you hit every single marker correctly, it looks very much like this. Now, obviously we die in this particular case, but that's what we would call a good death. As long as your team is winning the fight, you're dishing out the damage, you're getting the kills, such that they can't take anything away from you, that's okay. We're allowed to have one death in this particular case because the fight was good and the results are good. The next thing here is to, again, not let that econ dip. So as we're leaving the base, we're going for that RNG scuttle. Take the raptors because they're on your way. If you see someone that you can kill and push off, do so. Otherwise, fall back to your Krugs. Can I now pick someone off as well? Yes, Ezreal, you're out of position. Thank you so much for your life. go back to base and buy some more stuff. Go to the top side now. Hey, dragon is spawning. That's okay because I can make a pick on the top laner first. If you cannot make a pick on the top laner first and you have to get your ass down to dragon, then you know what to do. Go to dragon first. Unless, of course, you say maybe have the second herald, you want to kill the Camille and hard shove and give up that next dragon. Problem with that is they already have 2. You kind of want this one because if you don't get it, then they're going to have 3 dragons, they can coin flip a soul for a baron, and you don't really want to play that kind of game. Make sure you get this 3rd one if you're behind in gold, and you want a few more strategic options available to you in terms of your macro decisions later on. The whole point is, and I keep saying this lately, do the calculations. If you're a Volibear, you probably can't kill the top laner and get over to the dragon. You would have to make a different play. If you're a Hecarim, yes you can. If you're Nunu, yes you can. Assess what your champion's capabilities are, determine how much you can do in a given time frame, and then make those rotations. Point being, we attempt to make the pick, which of course we don't overcommit for. If we get it, cool. If we don't, cool as well. We try and shove up mid lane a little bit, but we connect on that fight first and foremost, make the pick, take the dragon, take out cams, we shadow our team who are pushing up the map. We don't go back to base just yet. They're pushing up mid lane, we shadow, and we use the time to take any camps they might have available in that quadrant. Now we can leave. The most important part about this next step for me is, do we actually have Baron control or is the Camille going to be an issue on the split push? No one's really going for Baron just yet. We need to rotate very quickly to try and push her away from that split pressure she has. Also, we are pathing towards where you want to be. You want to shadow your mid lane, obviously, because the Baron is the objective that's on the map, so you want to go Krugs Raptors towards mid lane, which means we can always have a look for Camille otherwise. If there is nothing happening on the mid lane, then we can go to the walls, grub, and look for a side lane pick, which you should be able to get because everyone in every elo will be over pushing past vision line. Most champions will 100% be able to do something about it. Now you might think this game looks a little bit over, but it really isn't because we still have 2 very important steps to discuss. First one is, if you have that pressure now to do that Baron, go ahead and do it. But if you have any uncertainty about that outcome of that fight, if you have any uncertainty over the macro plays going on, do not coin flip it. Position yourself to turn, position yourself to make picks. Because numbers advantage is king. If you have numbers advantage, you have the ability to match bad split push macro. You have the ability to win every team fight because you have more than they do. And obviously you can keep taking all of their stuff. And the first is at this stage, remember what I just said, path towards where you want to be, but at the same time, we're gonna have to team fight. We're gonna have to make picks. You're the assassin, get into the jungle, look for the flanking angles. As soon as someone steps out, you make the pick, you make the play. You also have to show absolutely immense patience. You cannot afford to go in to aggressively die and throw a situation. Look at this cutaway quickly at a Platinum Emerald Kane that I've coached for a while. He was having not such a good game. In fact, it was a terrible game, but he held his patience as we talked about the whole session for the end play. He just waited and waited and waited until they bunched up, all their cooldowns were down, waited for the Kane combo, everybody whistled away like they were dusted, and they reverse pushed from that play and won. So if we go back to our main character's game here, it's the same thing. Look for those picks, be patient about it, win the fights. If there's barons that you can't take, contest and poke a little bit to stop it. Try not to die yourself, will happen, that's okay. As long as you're not dying and then they get the baron and every one of them is alive, yeah, then you just shouldn't have contested and maybe looked for a bit more split pressure and map pressure. Now this does happen a few times, and what happens is we just ensure that we're taking these fights over meaningful objects like, dragons, like the potential of a baron. And at the same time, the most important thing we have here is eventually we do get the baron. After a lot of song and dance and quick highlights, we get it. The K now has already 17 kills, he's trying to drag his team across the finish line. Camilla's now split pressuring the map because she knows they can't win these team fights anymore. So what do? We don't overreact to her pushing bot lane. And this is the final thing, understand that pressure release when it comes to the late game. You push that top lane, let Camille push in a little bit. If you're going to trade inhibs, that's fine. If she's going to take an inhib, that's also, not ideal, but what we can do is, of course, force them to defend us a little bit, go back to base, lane up the Camille, and now because we have Baron, the one pressure point they have on the map is that super minion wave, which we can then just reverse push up, but don't go split pushing yourself just yet. Ensure you are shadowing your team. They will show up, the enemy will show up, they always do. That's when your time to shine arrives once more. Get those kills, and now you go around the world doing general macro, repeating this process times 3, 4, 5 times. And no, I'm not explaining it point by point because it really is just a repetitive process at this stage. I will leave a link below to my mid-game macro guide and the macro guide for this, as well as team fighting. So if you want to look more in depth into exactly how you execute this yourselves, you will have all the material at your fingertips. And you can see the gold graph on your screen. This was not a free win. We had to really fight for it. Yes, we had a little bit of fun with the fights and so on, but You gotta use your fedness in the correct way. One bad decision equals GG, you lose. And you gotta play around your team to a certain degree as well as matching the enemy team's macro pressure. Hopefully you enjoyed and learned something about becoming a total step-by-step carry jungler. And instead of wondering what step jungler is doing, why don't you actually just become a better one by watching the video in the box in your top right.